Stitches of love we sew. In this online world we come to grow. Mom and Pop Quilt Shop, where hearts align. Let's embrace the craft and let our souls shine.
Hey everyone, welcome to Weekend Project. I'm Laura Lynn with Mom and Pop Quilt Shop Studio, and we're going to make a thread holder for cross-stitching threads. So we do cross-stitching on Cross Stitch Tuesday. It's a live. Welcome to join us if you would like. It's 11 a.m. Eastern, and we just work on a project. Work on a free one right now, and then there's actually quite a few threads to go with it, and I'm finding when I just put it in my project bag, they're just kind of all rolling around on the bottom, so I would like to keep them separated just so they're not getting frayed together, right? So I just took some of my 2-inch squares and made a nice little patchwork one right here, and it can hold a couple of different colored threads up here. You can stack them in there, or you can make them individual. This is like very customizable for you if whatever you would like to do. Also for some needles and some snips, and then when we have the longer threads for the skeins of thread, if you have extra for your project but they're not on the little a little spool there, you can just tuck them down into another pocket. So ours is just going to be a little bit different the second time around. I did learn things on the first one. So what I would change definitely would be is when I go to make the closure here, is making sure that the Velcro comes across, because if that comes on your cross stitch, you'd be very upset if it rubbed it raw. So definitely when you're taking that time, make sure that your Velcro piece is going to cover completely on the loop part, okay? All right, so let's just put that off to the side. So what I have here, I'll give you the measurements of the cut. So I got a lining of 13 by 13, and outer fabric of 13 by 13. I have 4 strips of plastic. This plastic right here, it's just a clear plastic. It's a medium. Hopefully Pop will put a picture of what I am using. And it is 13 inches by 2 inches. And then I have 5 strips of white, just white, because I figured it's going to help show off the color of the thread the best. And you can use it as a comparison when you're using like light colors together, which one is actually more of the orangey or the, you know, honey color, whatever you might be looking for. So I find that very helpful to have a nice light color, either like a white or a black, so you can be able to tell colors against each other, okay? And then we have about 2 inches by 56 inches of binding to go all the way around, and then just a little bit of Velcro, okay? And we'll add the Velcro at the last, okay? So what I did is on my lining fabric here, I went 3.5 inches up from the bottom and made a line. And then I went another 2 3/4 from that, made a line, 2 3/4 from that, made a line. And what I have done is I've attached my plastic to some binding. So I just slipped it in. I took the plastic and I took the binding and folded it on itself, just again and again. It's just a 2-inch cut. So fold it and fold it, and then I put the plastic right in between, and then just stitched down so I only had 1 stitch. Okay, and then what I did is I took it and I put it on the lining part, lining up the lines, and just did a straight stitch right close to where that edge is going to be. But we're going to end up flipping these all up and then doing a little tack here, so it ends up sealing up that little plasticky edge, okay? So let's make that last one we need, and then we're going to add one just right at the bottom, so it's just a nice clear pocket instead of just the white fabric. Mix and match. Do what you need to do for your project. You may not have any of this clear plastic stuff, but you can do some really nice light colored fabric, or you can even use maybe a mesh if you have a mesh, or some lace, or something. All right, I'm just going to I've tucked my plastic all the way in, so it's right in at the fold. Okay, I'm just going to hold it there. You could use pins, not pins, but, or yeah, you could use pins, but I mean clips too if you wish. Okay, just skipping on down. That way there's only one seam. Okay, and continue right off. So we made sure that the pieces were bigger than what we were going to end up, so we could trim them, okay? All right, so now when it comes back to the lining here, where we had those ones lined up, here's the one for the line. I'm just going to take, and using a pin on either end is no big deal, because you are just going to sew right over it. Not over the pin, but you're just going to sew right through the plastic, okay? So that's a pin right there at the little lines that I've made, just to make sure that we're kind of as straight-ish as possible. And then we'll take that and zip that right underneath the machine. Okay. Like this, and we'll use that at the very end. This should be a very quick and easy project, and great project to give to a cross stitcher or a needle pointer. You can even do like a variation for knitters and crocheters for their hooks and their plastic needles, like the eye needles, so you can thread the fabric, the yarns back through. Okay, so back to the table here. Okay, so what we've done is we've did a little stitch along, and we're going to end up folding that upwards, just giving that like a finger press, doing the same with the one previously that we had on the lines. And right here, just doing a little press. Okay, and then we're going to take that last one we did, and we're going to put it right at the bottom. So that's going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4 nice clear sections of plastic. And then when we have this little strip here, this is what the 5th strip was for, and I said we needed 5, is you can go just right down the center to have 2 separate pockets, or you can section it out and do this and this like I did on the first one and have 3 different sections. I think I'm just going to go 2 for this one. Just go one right down the center there. Okay, and then that keeps everybody together. Okay. And you could do a top stitch on this one as well if you want to. I just think it's more stitching through the plastic that may not be necessary. Okay, so let's take this down here. We'll poke that through there because that is at the very bottom. Like I say, you could use clips if you like. It's not a big deal. We're going to put some pokes in it. I'm not trying to make waterproof here. And then up the sides to make sure things are nice and straight, we can poke it and hold it right through the fabric part. Okay. Oops, just need a couple more pins. Hope you've all had a great week. It's actually been really quiet without Gwenny, so it's kind of been sad actually. And she just like left the other day. So, well, she's missed. Hope you all had a great time with Gwenny being here too. It was lovely of her to share her time and her daughters with us. Actually, I should probably put that in the other direction. I didn't notice as I was taking my cross stitching back and forth from the shop to that. I'm like, oh. Normally I'm usually just using like a couple of threads, like 4 or 5, but now I've got like 13 or 14. So, okay, we gotta keep this a little bit more tamed. A little bit more organized. So make what we need. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a stitch down on either side of this strip right here, and then we're going to just kind of tack these little sections in right there to make sure everything's good to go. And then we're going to put this on here like that. And we'll just do a quick little base stitch all the way around, and then we will add our binding, okay? And then we can add our little Velcro afterwards, okay? It's not a big deal. Right. So let's go down one side. And try best, if you can, to make sure that to the feed dogs, you're keeping the fabric when you're working with plastic. If you have to put the plastic down, it's going to stick like, you know, like a twister mat. You're going to, like, you know, when you're a kid and you're sweating and stuff. So, sticky mat. So it will give some resistance to you. So just be cautiously aware. I do use my walking foot pretty much for everything. So I find it is very helpful on pretty much every situation. Okay. Because I could have just lifted my needle, but oh well. That way all your little threads are organized from each other. You can have your little, if you're working on maybe 2 different sections or 2 different projects and you put them in your project bag, you can have one section for one and one section for another. So I'm just going to take that and just do a little stitch. Oopsies. Oh, had a break thread. Oopsie. gotta make sure this gets stabilized down here to the corners. Okay, and then we'll go up on the other side. Take that extra pin out. And then when we seal up the bottom with the binding, it'll seal that up too. So we'll need a cap. Okay. Have you made something specific for your craft? Like whether you might be a painter or a clay artist or, you know, somebody, or, you know, wools. Whether you made something specifically to aid you in your craft. Like I'm pretty much doing here. Mother of necessity, right? Okay, so let's put these guys here. Let's trim up their little edges here. That's what our scissors are for. Well, actually, we can use our rotary cutter. Let's just scoot this off to the side for a moment. Square this all up. You want to make sure your plastic is going over the edge. I did notice on one of mine that I was just a little bit too short, so I just like top stitched it. Like I said, it was just going to be. It was the prototype. Okay, just trimming all little bits up so we can lay. If you wanted, you could probably even lay those two right sides together, so all the way around. Give yourself a little gap to turn the things right side out, but I like the little binding part too. But you can do whatever you like. Let the inspiration flow within you. So now we have our outside fabric and our inside fabric, and of course we're going to place it whichever way we like. Okay, let's do it this way. Okay. Just pop a little pin here and here. You don't have to baste it. Like you could probably put some pins in as you are doing the binding, but I just to make sure it is all going to stay together because it is a little project. Could have a little shiftiness going on here. And I did quilt this but very basically. It's just a little bit of quiltedness. I did not quilt this one. I just used some medium stabilizer on that. Okay, I'm just kind of going in the seam to pin where that back, the bottom plastic is. Okay, so I'm just going to go and take that up to a base stitch. Just kind of like skip-dee-dee-doodle all the way around real quick. Just to keep it as one unit before you put the binding on. That way you're not fussing. Hopefully everything is okay in your neck of the neighborhood. I know there's been some crazy wildfires all throughout Alberta and British Columbia. Big hugs to our Canadian friends going through all this. You know, even the smoke that permeates the air, you know, it's very unhealthy. Now you can use a button and a tie method to this too if you didn't want to use Velcro. You can use maybe even a couple little snaps, just, you know, adapt it to what's going to suit your needs, right? Okay, so that's good enough. It's got it pretty much together. Right. And then you just want to start one. I chose at the bottom to start and stop. So I just started and went for the inside first and then flipped to the outside and then did a top stitch there because to me you were going to see the outside more than the inside sort of thing. Well, that was the logic. Take a little fuzz off there. Okay, and then just put a little pin and then start a little bit down because you need that part to add together, or you can just like a tuck-in method, whatever works for you to get your binding on. Or you can use like a bias tape and have it like popped on like we did with the plastic, whatever makes you happy. Okay, turn this back down from a base stitch to a regular stitch of 2.4. That's what regular stitch is on my machine. And again, I'm trying to keep the plastic to the top and the fabric to the feed dogs. Okay. And I came 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, approximately, and then I'm just going to fold this up on itself. So So you get like a nice perfect little triangle with the fabric there. And then that allows for the coverage of fabric to go over to the other side. You're covering the other side of the project. Oops, there we go. Twist again, and then just fold the fabric up on itself so it kind of makes a little peak, and then fold it back, line it up in the corner, keep on going. Up, make a little triangle fabric. There we go. If you don't want to deal with those, you can make everything rounded on the corners. Okay, and then here, tucked in. Oops. Get that a little bit better. There we go. Okay, and then once you attach your binding at the ends here, however you want to do it, you just flip this to the right side, and then you just do a nice top stitch all the way down. Now you can use a decorative stitch for this too, but just do realize you're going to be going through your plastic here on the inside, right? So, and then just keep on. Okay, and then once you get to that part all finished, just pop that there for a second. Get that all bound up, and then you fold it either up and across, or you fold it down and over. It doesn't really matter, whichever way you like it. I like it so that the yellow is on the outside to make this as bright as possible. So that makes that these are the two sides right here where I'm going to have put my Velcro and my other part of the Velcro. There it is. Okay. So we'll take this part here, and we want to make sure that the loops is up. So we either do it in the corner, you just don't want it so it's going to be in the way of the plastic, right? So up here is good. Sorry, hold on, is that right here? Should be right about there. I want to use up, okay. So once that gets a little attached there, just use your sewing machine, and then same there, but you're going to have to lay it this way. Okay. It'll be folded there. Do a little tack stitch. Okay. And then once closed, there's no problem. Just making sure that you are using all the Velcro to cover all those loops, because you wouldn't want that touching your project and make it direct, okay? So, isn't that cute? Easy peasy. Using the fabric you have, using some scraps, making it for pockets that you need. I hope you make one. I would love to see it. Thank you. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Enjoy.